Okay, this is my reaction to the super card last weekend. Riyadh season, Dmitry Bivol vs Artur Beterbiev 2. Now, the card definitely lived up to the hype. It was hyped up as one of the best cards of all time. And every fight, even though that some guys pulled out, Dubois pulled out, and Shakur Stevenson's opponent pulled out, every fight was still very exciting. I got up super early to watch the card. Actually, I didn't really sleep too much. I watched pretty much all the fights except for, I think I missed the end of the Shakur Stevenson fight, and I didn't really watch the Hamza Sherez. I think that's how you say his name. I don't really see that fight either. I think I got something to eat during when that fight was on. But every other fight in the card was fire, especially the main event. I'll talk about that a bit later, but I'll just cover the other fights to start with. So the first fight, Callum Smith. Callum Smith impressed me a lot. He was the underdog, I believe, against Joshua Buatsi, and he proved that he's still a elite fighter. He can fight. He can really fight, and I think that a good fight for him next would be David Benavidez. I think the main event fight is Bivol and Beterbiev. I think they have a round 3 coming up. So Benavidez, if he's looking for an opponent, I think that Callum Smith would be the perfect opponent. And he can box, he can punch. He definitely showed a lot of heart in the Buatsi fight. He was tired, he still kept fighting. Very impressive. I don't really see that coming, but Callum Smith, he definitely impressed me. And he's definitely going to be a challenge for Benavidez if they end up fighting. Now, Ajit Kabayel versus Zili Zhang. So this fight pretty much went exactly how I thought. I rate Kabayel very highly. I think that now with that victory, he gets into the current top 5 heavyweight boxers. If you're still counting Fury in that mix, I know Fury said he's retired, but if you're counting Fury, you'd have it Usyk number 1, Fury 2, Dubois 3, Joseph Parker 4, and I would have Ajit Kabayel 5. Very good inside fighter. He throws punches in bunches. He'd be a very tough task for any of the heavyweights, including Usyk. So I definitely can't wait to see more of him. He'll be a tough fight for anyone. I don't think he has the star power yet, but once he gets that signature win, I think that he's definitely going to be one of the best heavyweights in the sport. Now, the Shakur Stevenson fight, the guy that he fought, he apparently is an electrician, and he worked the week of the fight. Similar to Bakoli, he took it on very short notice. I think that 4 days notice is what he took the fight on. It came out that he was working early in the week as an electrician, and Thursday, Wednesday, whenever it was that he got the call up, he stepped into the ring to fight Shakur Stevenson. And to me, that's unbelievable. And he definitely showed tremendous heart in that fight. I don't know if he had a full training camp because he's working at the same time, but I think that he definitely deserves a big fight after this. He showed a lot of heart, but obviously, as expected, Shakur Stevenson took him apart. The experience levels were totally mismatched, and it was a mismatch because Shakur Stevenson is a world-class fighter. Obviously, his opponent pulled out, but next up for him, I think I want to see him fight someone that's world class. People say Gervonta Davis is a great match for him. Me personally, I think that Gervonta Davis will stop him. I think that he doesn't really have that punch, and I think Davis would walk him down the same way he walked down the last fighter he fought, the last southpaw that he fought. But I would like to see that fight. I'd like to see him fight any of the top guys at 135, 140. Teofimo Lopez is another guy who would like to see him fight. Just someone at elite level so we can actually rate him at 135 or 140 pounds. Now, another fight that I was super looking forward to watch was Virgil Ortiz versus Israel Madrimov. Now, I thought that Virgil Ortiz won clearly. I think that the commentary team were a little biased towards Madrimov in this fight. I thought that Ortiz, I thought he dominated. I think he hurt Madrimov a few times to the body. One thing about Madrimov, and I did criticize him in this with Crawford as well, he's a great boxer and he can punch, but he does not press the attack at all. If you hurt him, if you get hurt in boxing, you have to hurt the other guy back. You have to press. You have to do something. He's obviously a world-class fighter, and he moves tremendous going backwards. He's a master of distance. But when it comes down to it, sometimes in boxing, you're going to have to press the attack. And he didn't do that against Crawford. He didn't do that at all against Ortiz. He tried to after he got hurt, but he's not really an attacking fighter. He's very defensive. He can punch, which I think that a lot of people think that he was good attacking. He's got a decent punch, but to me, at the world level, you have to do both. You have to be good defensively and you have to be good offensively. And people were saying the fight was very close. I think the unofficial scorer for the fight, he did terrible all night. And I forget how he scored that fight, but I think he had it a lot closer than it should have been. So yeah, that fight was great to watch. I had money on Ortiz and I thought he won clearly. Now, the Joseph Parker Martin Bicoli fight. Now, I didn't make a video after the fight got announced. Obviously, I made the prediction for Joseph Parker, Daniel Dubois, and I was super looking forward to that fight. But when this fight got announced and I saw what Bicoli weighed, I knew there was no chance that he would beat Parker. Joseph Parker, he's a former world champion. He's in tremendous form, probably the best mental state he's been in his career. And he's had a 3 month training camp. You can't fight a guy like that without training. You can't fight a guy like that without sparring. Martin Bicoli, I don't know why his team advised him to take that fight. Well, you can't play boxing. Boxing is something you can't play. The truth always comes out in the ring. And if you haven't trained, it's going to come out in the ring. And Bicoli, he's looking at his past fights, he can clearly take a punch. He was clearly not fight ready in this fight. You can tell he didn't spar at all. His timing was terrible. He couldn't take a punch. You have to that's one thing about sparring is you have to get used to getting hit. I don't think he was used to getting hit. I don't think he was ready at all for this fight. Definitely was too overweight for this fight. And Parker was in the form of his life. I think that how Parker came into this fight, it was the heaviest he's ever been in his career, and it was pure muscle. So I think that Parker was definitely the hardest Parker to beat in his entire career, this fight. And to fight him without training is just, it's just foolish. I think Bicoli did it for a paycheck, and you can't really blame him. I've heard that he's got life-changing money for this fight, but at the end of the day, I feel like that would have came. I think that Bicoli is a very good fighter when he's in shape, but like with anyone, if anyone, doesn't matter how good you are, if you don't train for a fight, it's going to be similar results to what happened to Bicoli Parker. So I think that Bicoli, obviously, he has to rebuild. I think he definitely gained more confidence for this fight. So I think that in his next fight, Parker is going to be even better. And I did tip Dubois to beat him before he got sick. But if they fight again, if Parker and Dubois fight again, I think that Parker's going to be even more confident going into this fight. So going into that fight. So I think that it's definitely that victory over Bicoli. Even though it wasn't the best Bicoli, I think that it made Parker even better. He's even more confident. He's even stronger mentally. It's yet another hurdle that is overcome. I'm definitely happy that Parker won. Parker's the type of fighter where he's a crowd favorite. You can't dislike him. Very likable, humble character. So definitely happy he got the win. And again, I think that he's definitely going to be better for his next fight. Now, that's pretty much all the fights on the card that I watched. Now I can talk about the main event. The fight definitely lived up to the hype. I have to say that first and foremost. The fight definitely lived up to the hype. I did tip Beterbiev before the fight. I was pretty confident in him to win, but I did say there were two things that would make me, think Bivol could get the victory. The first thing was the age. Now, do I think that played a factor? No, I don't. In fact, I thought that Beterbiev looked better, stronger, better on his feet than he did in the first fight. In the first fight, he was stronger in the championship rounds. In this fight, he came out stronger in the middle of the fight. He dominated. He came out a lot earlier as well. But I just think that Beterbiev looks stronger in this fight. So I don't think that's the reason why he lost. I think the reason why he lost was the second reason why I said that he could lose, and that was Bivol. But before I give my opinion about the fight, I'll talk a bit about how I scored the fight. So I scored it 114-114, a draw. I'm not really mad at the Bivol victory because I could see that happening. But I scored the first 2 rounds for Bivol. I scored 3, 4, 5, 6 for Beterbiev, 7 for Bivol, 8 for Beterbiev, 9, 10, 11 for Bivol, and I gave round 12 to Beterbiev. So I had a 114-114. I'm not mad at Bivol for getting the victory. To be honest, as a fighter myself, it was just super inspirational watching Bivol in that fight. The fact that he came back and he was so motivated to win this fight, Bivol was. And I was rooting for Beterbiev. I thought that he came on extremely strong in the early middle stages of that fight. There's definitely not another fighter today in that weight class, light heavyweight, and there'd be very few fighters from the past that could have dealt with that pressure Beterbiev was putting on. Beterbiev, everybody says he hits like a truck, all of his sparring partners, and he was truly putting on crazy pressure. Bivol was definitely hurt a number of times in that early mid stage of the fight. I thought after the 6th round, Bivol was done. I thought it was finished. And I was already spending my money. I bet on Beterbiev. I thought that he won after the 6th. Bivol had nothing. He was sitting in the corner. He had a bruised face. He was just getting chopped down. He was getting defeated. The fact that he found a second win and he was just throwing combinations. He was moving angles. Beterbiev, he tried to come back later in the fight, but Bivol was turning. He was turning so good. He was pivoting 2-3 times on the spot. His footwork, his punching combinations, it was just perfect. The perfect fight. And Beterbiev is a monster. It was still a super close fight. I saw it a draw, but Bivol, he won. Looking in hindsight, the way he came back, it was so similar to the first fight when it was similar but opposite, because in the first fight, Beterbiev came on late and Bivol won the early part. And in this fight, Beterbiev won the early part, and Bivol, he rallied in the end. I did think Beterbiev won the last round for sure. I think that in the last minute he hurt Bivol, but I think that ultimately Bivol landed more punches, and there were times in that fight where he made Beterbiev in the later part of the fight look extremely flat-footed. And I don't think Beterbiev was hurt at all, but Bivol was just throwing combinations, beautiful combinations, and his footwork was tremendous. The fact that he was on a mission in this fight, he said he was on a mission, he had to get the victory back, and I think that he climbed a mountain, the biggest mountain that no one else, I think, could climb. Beterbiev, like I said, he was stronger in this fight, at least to me he seemed like it anyway. And Bivol was 1,000% stronger too. So overall, I think that the fight was better. It was similar to the first fight, but it was a lot more intense. Bivol proved himself one of the best light heavyweights of all time. I think that Beterbiev already proved himself one of the best. Both these guys are 1-1. There has to be a third fight. I definitely think out of these 2 fights that have happened, Bivol, he's been hurt a lot. He's been damaged. Beterbiev has that type of concussive power where you can't be getting hit by him too much. And Bivol's had 24 rounds with him. I don't even think that he's keen for the third fight. Bivol is. In the post-fight interviews, I think that in his mind, he's climbed the mountain. I think that he's done the hardest thing, and he's got the victory over Beterbiev. I don't think he's too high on the third fight, but I definitely think that it's going to happen. It has to happen. I think that Turki Al-Sheikh, he's going to offer them both an amount of money that they can't refuse. Fans are going to get treated once again because it was extremely exciting. The fight was extremely exciting. It lived up to the hype. Both guys are just great, high quality. They both have opposing styles. Beterbiev is obviously the killer. Bivol's the slick boxer that throws punches in bunches. Again, like I said, I was happy that even though I lost money on the main event, I pretty much got every fight on the card correct, except for the main event. And Bivol, he is the prime example. Like I said, it's motivating watching that. It's motivating watching it. Before the fight, I said that he handled the loss perfectly. That's how you handle a loss in life. Not just in boxing, but in life. You have to accept the defeat, do what it takes. You have to be, and you can tell Bivol was extremely mentally focused, extremely strong, and he showed tremendous heart that he is a true champion. And now it's Beterbiev's turn to see if he has the ability to come back, if he has the ability to accept the loss and right the wrong, because that he definitely wants the trilogy, and he seemed very humble in defeat as well, Beterbiev. I think that, of course, both fights were extremely close. So I think they both technically have the right to say they won both fights, but it is 1-1. So now we're going to see if Beterbiev has what it takes to come back from a loss. Bivol showed it that he can do it. I think that the third fight, just like the second fight was better, was more intense than the first, I think that the third fight will be more intense, more action, more emotion than the second. And both guys know what it's like to feel a loss. Both guys know that the other can better them. And both guys have had times in the first and second fight where they've dominated the action. So I think that this trilogy will go down in history. This boxing rivalry will go down in history. And both fighters will go down in history as two of the best, not only of this era, but of all time. Like I said, as a boxing fan, it was tremendous watching this fight. I'm happy, even though I lost, that I got to see amazing boxing, because that's what I love, and that's what so many people love, is great fights. And boxing is everything to me. So watching that, appreciating that was tremendous. Every other fight on the card as well. So this Turkey Al Sheikh, I don't think he's slowing down. I don't think that this is gonna stop. I think that whenever there's a big fight like Bivol Beterbiev, I think he's just gonna stack the cards with great fights. And that's tremendous as a boxing fan that this is happening. Obviously, me, watching fights gets me pumped up. I want to be fighting on one of these cards myself. I mean, that would be so amazing. But for now, I just appreciate being a fan. And there it is. There's my reaction to one of the super cards of the not only the year but of all time. Beterbiev was the king, but now Bivol's got the crown, and they'll meet a third time to see who truly is number one.